One of the things that I think it was Justice Blacklock actually said is if the state takes the control of the children, one of the goals should be the reunification of the family. That should be first and foremost. In fact, he even went on further because he was talking about foster care system. He says, we know the problems with foster care are legion and well documented. And the state has a responsibility to bring reunification between the parents and the children should there be separation between the two. And I thought that was interesting, and it's good to hear him say that. But what I hear you saying, what I've heard other people saying with some of these child custody evaluators, it's almost as if they're doing just the opposite. They're not seeking reunification. They're seeking advantage for an individual that would lead to a separation, maybe because if you can, sideline a parent, maybe we can exploit them further for child support or whatever.
There have been many cases, even in my own professional career, in which one or both parents are involved in CPS. But the ultimate outcome that I saw in cases that involved reactive physical abuse, there was reunification of the parents with the child. It wasn't a permanent separation. What I've experienced and what I've seen in the family courts is almost like a permanent separation of the child with the parent for just minor incidences. What I experienced, let's say in Judge McMaster's court, was that there was evidence in which I was actually being tracked in the school environment at a school activity, and that evidence was shown to me. There was evidence that there was somebody sitting within a certain distance of me when I felt threatened, but somehow what occurred was that it was twisted all around so that I was trying to be put as the person that was the bad person.
Yeah. I think we talked about this at the time because I remember you saying some of those. If I remember correctly, I think I may have seen some of those pictures and everything, and that you were telling me what was going on about this. So here it is. Now if you would have been tracking, of course you would have. We need to have a protective order. But somehow it seemed like it was okay for her to track you. And maybe because he deserved it. So no matter what.
With the other person, it was an example how things, not only in this case, but several other cases that I think we've both seen, that things are just twisted around and evidence, particularly with the fathers, are just ignored. And there's this bad and this good person. Whereas there really, a majority of times, just gray area. And there can always be lesser restrictive interventions than what occurs. And in terms of integrity of attorneys, there are exceptions, of course, because there are good attorneys, but there are attorneys that just have no integrity. There are attorneys that just fabricate stories. They exacerbate the conflict, and there are healthcare professionals that exacerbate the conflict or try to exacerbate the conflict.
I agree. To go back to this again, the idea that I mentioned earlier about the effect of sometimes child custody evaluators almost leading to more separation rather than reunification.
Leading to more separation rather than reunification. And what's the impact on the child? With this, it's traumatic.
So it was interesting because in this one case that I listened to this week, they were talking about a father, and the father had been doing some meth and stuff like that, and hadn't seen his children for a while. The argument of the attorney for the children was basically saying, regardless of this, the children love their father, and for him not to see them over this period of time, that is a cause for termination. And I thought, wait a minute, the state routinely separates fathers and mothers sometimes from children, and yet here you have an attorney saying, maybe we should maybe we should terminate this parent's rights because he hasn't been seeing his children. Maybe he's trying to get cleaned up. I don't know what all the situation.
Based upon the state intervention. But you're still blaming the parent based upon the state intervention.
And
when it's actually been the state that's been separating the child from the father. The father predominantly, but also the mother.
And really state policy is causing a lot of this destruction. They don't have experts like you. They have fake experts, paid experts, lobbyists that hire these experts to give whatever testimony they want. But I think that our legislators, in some instances, when they craft some of this legislation, they don't really know the impacts and effects of it, what they're intending to do, supposedly, is just the opposite of what their intent is. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, I think from the get-go, when we're talking about the standard possession order, the expanded standard possession order, in an unmarried or divorced situation compared to a married situation, there's going to be a dramatic loss for the child. There's already a dramatic loss for the child in a divorce situation because they no longer have that married, intact family unit.
Right.
Now there's going to be even more of a separation issue with the child or for the child or children because now, relatively speaking, they're losing one parent compared to the other.
Right.
And you really have to make an effort in those situations to keep that attachment, particularly if you're starting off with a child that's very young, because that primary attachment period is very important. And then as they grow older, you really have to struggle. Predominantly, if you're the father, there are mothers that are on this standard possession order,
Right.
expanded standard, but they have to really work hard to keep that attachment. And then if you have a parent, an existent parent that is conflict oriented, and then and many people experience this, which the one parent is conflict oriented, but they're able to disguise it well and manipulate it well and appear as a victim.
Right.
Then that can really wreak a whole havoc on things.
Yeah.
And then you get into the whole subject potentially of parental alienation, which is a subset of that.
Yeah.
But the real only difference between kids in this divorced and unmarried situation and kids in the married is marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, when parents stay together in a marriage, even if there's issues, they're not exposed to the judiciary. Because the judiciary and all these mental health professionals cannot intrude upon that private life.
Right.
Unless they let them.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when parents get divorced because somebody's not happy, and many times not more than that, now the judiciary and these mental health professionals can now intrude upon that because whatever problems existed now can be exposed. Yeah. And then they can be exploited. Yeah. And then, before you know it, we're ordering guardian ad litems, we're ordering,
and stepdaddies, the new
amicus,
daddy, the real daddy.
Amicus attorneys, and we're ordering mental health professionals, this therapist and that therapist. And the impact of upon the child with all of this can be worse than if this never existed at all.
Right, right.